Today, would the Mario movie be better if you couldn't understand what anyone is saying? Only one way to find out. This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint. We'll be in your area to deliver your package between 8 a.m. and whenever.
Leave your doors unlocked and provide a suitable area for us to deposit the package.
Arrange a selection of light refreshments for your delivery driver.
Put on some jazz and lock yourself in the bathroom for the next 8 hours.
Do not make eye contact with any delivery agents. They are skittish and will bolt at the first sign of sentient life.
Hey, were you all excited to see the Mario Brothers movie and then you saw the cast list and decided you'd rather not? You're like me, by the way. Usually I start with that part of the joke, but there's no time because you gotta hurry up and get tickets to the special Japanese dubbed screenings being held in Canada and also the USA for the Mario movie. Will there be English subtitles? According to one source, yes! Also, that source has no proof, so no, but maybe? Who cares? It's Mario, the way Miyamoto intended. And also, I'm not going. That's not because the nearest theater is either in Vancouver or in Seattle, it's because I kinda still don't give a plumber's cuss about it. I didn't even see the first Mario movie, so frankly, I'd have no way to follow the plot of the sequel. But hey, just in case you want to go, I will now begin exhaustively listing every city you can find a theater in. Ready? Honolulu, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Vancouver, Toronto, New York. How did I do? Did I get them all in one breath? That's right, Nintendo is pushing the movie to all the major cities in North America, so if you live in the sleepy burgs of Chicago, or Austin, or Atlanta, or Phoenix, or Winnipeg, you'll just have to catch the next Densha into the city nearest you. That should only take like, what, 20 minutes? 30?
Previously, we reported that the UK's Competition and Markets Authority had raised some issues of concern that threatened to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and that Microsoft had time to respond before the CMA's final report. Well, that time has passed, the report is out, and the result is, no, actually, we don't think you should be allowed to buy that other company. But not for the reasons you may think. Because it seems like all the regulatory concerns have circled around the central nexus that is Call of Duty. Sony is afraid of losing Call of Duty. Microsoft says they'll definitely keep selling it to Sony. Sony says that's not good enough. Microsoft claims Call of Duty isn't even that good, actually. Everyone else calls that ridiculous. Microsoft agrees to release Call of Duty on PlayStation and Nintendo consoles and Steam for at least 10 more years. Isn't that enough? Not for the CMA, because their concern is cloud gaming. Because forget Call of Duty. In fact, the CMA outright says they don't expect this merger to be an issue for the UK's console gaming market. But Microsoft already has 60 to 70% of the world's market share for cloud gaming services. They have the leading PC operating system, and they own their own global cloud infrastructure, so it stands to reason that they would want to limit Activision games to be exclusive to Microsoft Cloud services. Now, in an attempt to look their best for the FTC, Microsoft did make deals with Nvidia GeForce Now and some smaller gaming streaming services that we'd never heard of to bring Call of Duty to those services. But the CMA says that's not enough. Specifically, they say that because these deals only apply to specific games and only specific services, that brings significant risks and would require the CMA to basically administrate Microsoft's business going forward. Quote, accepting Microsoft's remedy would inevitably require some degree of regulatory oversight by the CMA. By contrast, preventing the merger would effectively allow market forces to continue to operate and shape the development of cloud gaming without this regulatory intervention. Obviously, Microsoft and Activision are going to appeal this, so it isn't remotely over. But for the meantime, please remember, the CMA is a UK government body. So while, for example, rabid Sony fans might be worried about getting to play Call of Duty on their PlayStation 6, the CMA is much more concerned that this merger is effectively handing Microsoft a forever monopoly on cloud gaming and forcing all UK gamers going forward to choose Game Pass or nothing. Microsoft isn't buying Activision Blizzard for $70 billion because it would be nice to have around. In fact, Activision is notoriously not a good place to hang around. No, Microsoft is buying them for $70 billion because they figure they can make more than $70 billion by owning them. How? I don't know, but they sure aren't making money selling Xbox hardware they never have. What if they just got rid of Xbox hardware altogether and moved wholly to the cloud that they already own 70% of. I don't know if that's their plan, but when you're talking about a merger worth more than the GDP of a majority of nations on Earth, you should be thinking, what's your angle? Because it can't be, I just really love Call of Duty.
If you've never heard of Gamescom, it's like E3 in that it's a video game trade show, but it's not in that it's still kicking. Oh, and also, it's got Nintendo. Gamescom recently announced that Nintendo would be exhibiting at Gamescom 2023 in Cologne, Germany, which is a huge departure from their current stay home and watch it on YouTube strategy. A marketing strategy, I love to point out, that has been mimicked by the bulk of their competitors to varying degrees of success. But now the prodigal Game Boy returns to the convention space, and what will that look like? Will they operate a massive booth where you can play the latest games with hundreds of other people? Will they run giveaways of swag to adoring crowds yelling out the right answers to Nintendo trivia? Will they let you check in at the My Nintendo desk for a limited edition pin, which, let's be honest, has gotten worse and worse over time? How could we possibly know? Oh, right. PAX. Nintendo runs a booth at pretty much every PAX, including the most recent PAX East 2023. They've been doing all of this shit even after they stopped going to industry cons. It's almost as if Nintendo knows what they'd rather be doing is just marketing direct to fans. Now, one thing they haven't done at PAX is reveal new games, since that kinda isn't the point of PAX. But surely Nintendo has new games in the pipeline. Yeah, they do. That's their goddamn business model. They make games and consoles. They're working on a new console right now. How do I know that? That's their goddamn business model. I just said that. You know what I think is going to happen? Since Gamescom is in August, you'll be able to play Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4 on the floor, plus 5 or 6 other titles by indie devs and larger studios. Nintendo will probably do a direct around that time, announcing the next 3 to 6 months of titles, and maybe they'll run some of those trailers at their Gamescom booth. Nintendo is delightfully boring, predictable, and stable in their marketing strategy, and that's why it's so much fun to cover them when the really weird shit like Labo happens. But Nintendo at Gamescom is a big win for Gamescom. If you doubt that, look at which account tweeted the news first.
I've learned a lot about CSGO skins in the past week, and shout out to those in the community who watched, but here's one that's possibly even more stupid than the $400,000 AK-47 skin we reported on last week. It's this skin. The Kami skin for a 5.7 pistol, but it's a pattern-based skin, which means there are variants on how it could appear on the gun. Apparently, 1,000 different variations. Most of them go for slightly over $1, but one of them, pattern 909, recently sold for over $1,400 because the way that the texture mirrors across the back of the gun makes it look kind of like a vulva. They call it the pussy pattern. Look, there are so many jokes we could make here about, haha, gamers haven't seen a real pussy or whatever, but like, we're all 12 on the inside. I get it. Sure, it kind of looks that way. But still, $1,400? I still make hee-hee, sex number and weed number jokes no matter how often Elon Musk tries to make them uncool, but they're free. I'm not going to spend over $1,000 just so when I'm playing Counter-Strike, I get to occasionally glance at a gun pattern that looks kind of like a vulva. Or one covered in stickers. Because of course a CSGO skin collector just bought one of these and slapped 4 hollow stickers all over it, thereby supposedly raising its value to $2,700. Look, if y'all are so desperate to spend money on vaguely smutty nonsense, I can draw an excellent cock and balls for you for like $500?
What you drawing? No, let me have a look.
No, go away. No one gets to see till I'm done.
No, I want to see it.
No, not for free.
Cheapskate. Coming up, gaming studio 1010 and toy brand Funko are teaming up for a new video game that answers the questions: what if I could play a big crossover with all my toys? And what if all my toys had cold, dead eyes?
The funniest thing to me, and we were talking about this beforehand about the Microsoft thing, is that sort of Microsoft's stance, right, is much more feels oriented. Like their response, right, is like, oh, you know, it's a shame that the CMA just has no idea how business operates.
Yes.
You know, it's what were you saying, Paul? It's like, you know, they're like, I'm sorry, I feel bad that the UK is such a hostile place for big business to operate. What a loss for your country. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, the CMA, you can read their full statement and their press release, and it's like, no, they know what. They know business. They understand what's going on. And I saw so many things in the comments about people being like, "Oh, they shouldn't be. This is not the purview of what like a government body should be." It's like, no, this is exactly what a government body should be doing. Because they're worried about the UK. They're the UK. They're a UK body, and they're like, we think if this goes ahead, it's going to be bad for the people who live in our country.
Yeah.
So we don't want you to do it. That's their job.
Yes, to be civil servants representing the people.
Yeah.
You know? And it's funny to me because there's a couple different things because the Conservatives are in power right now, and they're try their damnedest to be as business friendly as possible. So you know there's going to be pressure coming down the CMA to be like, maybe just let it go through. But there's also that sense of, I previously been like, sure, fuck it, whatever, let them have it. Like, let them buy Activision, maybe they clean house and maybe things get better for people working there, and or maybe it doesn't, and maybe it's just all the same dystopian hellscape we've imagined this whole place to be for every corporation to be for like the last 20 years. But they actually made a salient analysis and came up with something that had escaped my notice, and I think probably a lot of people's notice, the idea that's like, you know, this isn't about just like Call of Duty or a game on a PlayStation or 20 games on a PlayStation or whatever. This is about a larger issue that we can see where Microsoft really has a lot of consumer power. Because I didn't realize Xbox games, live games, Xbox Live, whatever they're called. I don't do the Xbox
Game Pass,
thing. I'm sorry. Yes, Xbox Game Pass. 70% of the world's gaming.
Huge.
That
for cloud gaming,
blew my mind for cloud gaming, because I thought maybe like there'd be a lot of different entries. I can see why Stadia was all about, we want to get in this thing, and royally fucked it up.
And they failed, and Microsoft owns Azure as well.
Yep.
And Paul is pointing out that the CMA, a week before they released this final thing, they released a sort of like a midway statement, basically being like, we don't actually think Call of Duty is that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And Sony was like, you know, they were
because
like,
there's that idea that, oh, you're gonna side with them, and it's like, we haven't finished our analysis.
Let me finish talking.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing actually that Heather just showed me was, of course, that as part of this whole thing, right, Microsoft was like, well, you know, as if you look at IGN's list of like the top 25 greatest PC games of all time, like Call of Duty's not even on that list. So like, how good is Call of Duty really? Right? Come on, guys. Like Microsoft, it's really funny to see Microsoft have to talk down Call of Duty and be like, we all know it's not that great. And the CMA is like, we don't think that this editorial list is actually a very accurate representation of the popularity of Call of Duty. We actually think Call of Duty is much more popular than you were claiming it is, Microsoft. And yes, obviously, obviously it is. Everyone who's looked at a video game is like, yes, obviously Call of Duty is preposterously popular. But it's really funny that Microsoft are like, oh, it's not actually, people don't really like it that much. It's not a big deal. And that ultimately, after all of this brouhaha about Call of Duty specifically, that the CMA is like, we don't actually think that's the problem.
Yeah.
And really entertaining to me.
And I'm going to keep coming back to the thing I keep thinking about with the cloud gaming thing, where it's like the FTC didn't have anything to say about cloud gaming at all. And we figured they would be it's like that should have been where we would have seen the first one, you would think. And so differing attitudes from differing departments. It's nice to see that actually, that it's like when you have a global company like this, when you have two global companies merging, that because you have to ask multiple authorities, hey, can I be allowed to do this? Yes, it's a pain in the ass. But also, I think for us as people, we have much more opportunity to see, oh, well, there's a thing that one like a trade commission might have missed that another trade commission picked up on. And I think for everybody out there watching, it's good to have these things happen, because like I get locked in my own mind about, I do some analysis, I think about supply chain issues, I think about whatever else, I'm trying to come up with explanations for why things are happening a certain way, and it's like, yeah, I'll get locked into a thing that I think is the way something is, and a lot of times it might be outside of the orthodoxy that the larger gaming public, not just the press, but also the gaming public, be like, no, we believe this because we want our thing, and we want it now, and we want it for free, and we want it forever. And I'm like, right. But I'm thinking of something outside of the orthodoxy, I'm thinking about something from the business perspective, and then I'm always feeling like I'm having to challenge that at this table. I'm always feeling like I'm coming back and being like, hey, you should be thinking about this in a larger context, because you have to think, remember, this isn't just about making games, it's about operating a business at the same time. It's about art and business, and that is always going to be conflict. And to see this happen from the CMA being like, hey, cloud gaming is the thing you didn't consider. I'm like, oh, I love that. That's a new thing I didn't even consider.
Yeah.
I was all on board with, fuck it, let them merge. Who gives a shit anymore? It's all going to hell. Oh, wait, no, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. I have changed my point of view. You should do that too.
Yeah, I don't think it should be a hot take to say that if you are engaging in a $70 billion corporate acquisition, that it shouldn't be easy.
Yeah. I'm not saying you have to change your mind about this issue.
No.
I'm just saying be ready to change your mind about other things when you hear the split in what you have already started to believe, because maybe there are other ways to approach the same issue.
Hey, if you play Magic the Gathering, we're going to be at MagicCon Minneapolis next week. And by we, I do mean we are going to be at MagicCon Minneapolis, because we have a booth 2133.
Yep.
And Beej is going to be there for a lot of the time at the booth. I mean, we'll all be at the booth at various points. We're not just going to leave Beej there.
Thank you.
On his own all weekend.
I appreciate it.
But we are going to be there, as well as Kathleen and James and Wheeler and Ben and Nelson, doing a whole bunch of stuff all weekend, including Game Nights Live. Kathleen and I are going to be in Game Nights Live. So, yeah, if you're going to be at MagicCon, come and say hi and engage in a commerce with the booth that we'll have there. And we'll sign stuff and take pictures and all that. But we'll see you there. That also means, by the way, no CheckPoint next week. I should have mentioned that. Should have maybe led with that. But that's
why.
Yeah. So. See you in 2 weeks.